Good morning. This is Gaming Perspectives with
Saul
and Jolene. And today we're talking about how a GM role plays exotic creatures, Saul says.
Yes, exotic things. Yes, creatures, gods, aliens, and creatures. So when role-playing something completely, alien is a good one, strange creature in RPG games, it's always, for me, it's always something I want to role-play a little bit different than, let's say...
The shopkeeper?
Yes, Barney, the recruit to the city guard, right? You know, those are going to be role-played differently between each other, but then on a totally different level, you have this entity, whatever it is, you know.
Zeus.
Yes, Zeus. That's a good one.
Well, luckily for you
Ooh.
and all GMs, it's not like a playing field you're just stepping onto and have no idea what you're doing, because you've been seeing this in science fiction books, movies, Star Trek since forever.
Right.
When I mean forever, I mean my lifetime at least, and obviously before in books and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, and you're right, because I have seen Star Trek since I was a little kid, and that's probably the first, one to tackle strange alien things, right?
Oh, and we just were watching something. This last week was Star Trek Day, which I heard on YouTube was a flop, but I watched all of the stuff on it, so there you go. Which was the anniversary, September 8th, the anniversary of the first airing of Star Trek.
Oh, that's what I didn't know what it was for, but yeah, I thought it was a strange date.
One of my favorite episodes, and we saw it, I saw it when I was watching that, was the one with the Horta.
Yes, I forget something in the dark, right?
Yeah, Devil in the Dark or
yes,
something.
Yes, the Devil in the Dark.
And when you first brought this episode up to me, that was one of the first things I thought about, how Spock had to communicate with the Horta using telepathy or mind melding with it.
Oh, yeah.
And since it was a strange creature, it was really hard for him and hurt him when he did it.
Yes.
So when you said, how do you role play creatures, an alien, that was one of the first things I thought of. So you have an idea from all of these people who have done it before you. Yeah,
I think you're right. I think just an aside, I didn't know it was Star Trek Day, and I don't know why there was so much Star Trek stuff going on. And I don't know what do you mean. I don't know what you mean by flop, but we were watching somebody interview a couple people. One was George Takei and Gene Roddenberry Jr. or something.
Roddenberry.
Anyway, and so I thought it was very interesting that they mentioned Devil in the Dark, because that is one of the episodes when I was a kid that really stuck in my head. There was so many, because I watched them over and over again, because they were on reruns all the time, right? I think they were back when I was a kid. There was Star Trek was an hour show, right?
Yes.
So I think it was either at 5:00 or 6:00 they would show it, right? Because the news was at 5, and then between let's say 6 and 8:00 before prime time started, there was nothing.
It was always reruns
of different shows, right? So I remember they had Star Trek
or game shows like
Matchbox. I don't know. Yeah, I guess they had those in the afternoon, but in that pre-prime time era. Time period, those 2 hours, they would put like movies at 6:00.
Now you've lost every millennial
I know.
Gen Z that's ever been there.
Okay, way back in the machine, in the Wayback Machine, we didn't have a choice of what we watched other than what channel to watch. And when I was a kid, we had 4 channels.
Well, we had 3, so
we had lucky. The ABC, NBC, and the CBS affiliate, whichever one that was. And if we were lucky, we, on a good day, we could get independent station channel 36 out of San Jose.
Which meant you had to switch to
UHF, yes.
And then you had all these little tiny things to turn.
Going way back. So, anyway, it was we were really, we
watched whatever was on reruns.
Right.
Like, I watched Gilligan's Island and the Brady Bunch for years.
Yeah,
I didn't know that it was reruns when I was a kid. It was just on
I didn't know they were reruns either.
And Star Trek we watched when I was little.
Yes.
All the time.
So there was this time period where Star Trek and all these shows would come on, and I remember we'd watch them, and it didn't matter if we'd seen them once or twice or 5 times, because we just watched it because it was all there was.
So you're proving my idea that these are the kind of shows that get into your psyche if you're like us. and they show you a way to role play things that are not human or are gods or whatever.
Correct. And then there was another episode that dealt with the gods. Remember those people who were gods on that one planet? It wasn't Zeus, was it? Apollo was one of the gods, one of the Greek gods. And and Star Trek and the crew of the Star Trek Enterprise go there and get involved, and it was very interesting. It was always very interesting ways they portrayed different things, and I think that's where you're right. That's probably where my source of my ideas come from. Is a lot of it, fortunately or unfortunately, Star Trek. Because some of the shows were good, and some of them were really, really good, and some of them were like okay. But anyway, so I think you're right. You get them from books. I would get my ideas from books, from TV shows, movies, even. More often than from anywhere else. I mean, I don't know where else you're gonna get the idea. But for me, when I first come up with something that is that powerful or that strange, I always think, I hate
the boss that Augustine would say.
Okay, maybe the boss. But I always think, and I hate to sound like some method actor.
Cliche?
Or a cliche is, what's my monsters or creatures' motivation?
Well, when it comes to gods and dragons, and Saul has brought dragons into our adventures quite often. In fact, recently in Shadowrun, we sat down and ate dinner with a dragon, and then we had to go on an adventure with him. We were trying to save him from some bad guys.
Well, we haven't completed that.
Yes, I know, and we were in the middle of an adventure with him, so we don't actually know what's going to happen. But he portrayed him in a way that I knew it was a dragon. I told everybody else it was a dragon.
Well, he didn't outwardly come out and say that he was a dragon.
No.
Right. That's what I'm trying. I just want to make sure that the listeners know that, because if I came forward, this is Dragon Mix-a-Lot, then you would know. But he was portraying himself as a businessman.
A very quirky businessman.
Yes. So exactly. So what is the motivation of the being that is being encountered? I kind of equate this to the little kid with the ant idea that I was telling Jolene earlier. So a little kid with an ant, I don't know if you've ever been near ants as a little kid, but I've looked at ants, and some kids have been even weirder and burn them with magnifying glasses and stuff. I've never really done that. I've always kind of like there was one time there was these ants, walking in a trail, and they were carrying stuff, right? I'm like, whoa, they're like super strong. They were carrying these big old pieces of bread or whatever they were carrying. And I was trying to see where they were going. I'm following them. So as a kid watching ants, you're the god or the alien or the dragon looking at ants, the PCs, and you're just fascinated by these little creatures, right? And my analogy with that is that not me, a little kid me, because I was actually a very kind-hearted little kid. But there's other kids out there that, like I said, you hear stories of them whipping out the old magnifying glass, burning them and stuff. And so my idea is, as a little kid, you're fascinated with the ants, you're interested in the ants, and you're looking at the ants. And then, as your curiosity fades,
you just get up and walk away?
You just walk away. Or if you're a particular kind of kid, you just smash the ant, just to see what happens.
Just because you can.
Just because you can. So the ant analogy doesn't quite fit, because the kid and the ant can't talk to each other. But in certain situations, the dragon, the alien, sometimes the god definitely could communicate with this ant creature. And that's interesting, that kind of a conversation. Can you imagine yourself talking to an ant? Like, hey.
Actually, I can, but...
Well, that's what you do.
I think I did talk to the ants. They didn't talk back, but I did talk to them.
Oh, as a little kid, yeah. No, I never talked to them, but if communication could be established, and you're asking them questions, and for whatever reason, either by curiosity or maybe as a god or as an alien or as a dragon.
Well, you don't even have to go that far. Just say you're a giant, the king of the giants, right? When we played in that adventure, when the giants are so much bigger than humans, right? They don't really care about...
They don't need to care.
They don't have to care about humans, right?
Yes.
They can just swat them out of the way.
Yes. And how do you prevent them from being swatted? Your characters from being swatted?
You be very kind and you ask the giants what they want you to do. Unless they're hill giants and they want to eat you, then you run away or kill them.
So back to the ant analogy. The kid is talking to the ant, and the ant is talking back. So that's, to me, that's what it is to have that conversation. Now the problem with the ant is that he does not comprehend this being that is huge and thunderous voice talking to him, and can't possibly imagine what that kid is up to. And just like a kid is chaotic, like kids can be kind of crazy. I've been a kid. I was kind of crazy. They're unpredictable, right? For to me, I hate to go back.
No, he's going back again
to Star Trek. This time, the Next Generation, which is not my favorite generation.
Whatever.
Or favorite show. But actually, I've grown to like it much better than when I first saw it, which I didn't really watch it when it first came out. But regardless, in that show, there's a creature or a being called Q. Now, Q is volatile. He is, he's all kinds of things. Let me think in my notes here.
He's immortal.
He's immortal, which is godlike. He's quirky. He's vengeful. He's strange. He's funny. And one thing he is predictable, right? Because you never know what he's gonna do, except he's not gonna like kill off the Star Trek crew.
Sometimes he does
at the end of the show.
Then he brings them back.
Oh yeah, that's right. Check, guys. So that's exactly, for me, that is a good example of how to play a god in one way, right? And even a dragon, because the dragon, dragons and those creatures, those entities I like to call them, they have motivations and they have reasons for communicating with humans or your party or your spacefaring group or whatever. They need to talk to you because they need to talk to the PCs because they need something, whether it's information or
they're just messing with you, like Loki.
And yeah, or they just want something, right? They want something in return for their interaction from you. And so when I role play that kind of creature, I make them quirky. I make, it's weird because you're right. I have played quite a few dragons in the games that I've ran for you guys. There was the golden dragon on the boat or on the island. And, they ran across, I think that was Storm King's Thunder. They were looking for something and they came across this island and there was this like old shack there on this rocky, kind of like where a lighthouse would be type of island. And so they go to shore and they talk to him and they find that he's just strange, right? I don't remember how I played him, but they knew something was up with this guy, the players.
His name was Bob.
Maybe that was a problem, but that was it, right? Because he had been on that island for a long time. He had very little interaction with people or anything. And so when they asked him his name, he didn't want to reveal his real name. So, and then he was like, surprised by that question. And so he came out with the first name that he could think of.
Which was Saul coming out with the first name he could think of.
Well, it was a little bit of both. But I've intentionally said Bob because it's such a weird name in the world of Forgotten Realms, right? It was like,
right.
I don't know if that's a real name in Forgotten Realms. Sir Robert, maybe. But anyway, so the characters all look at each other and going, Bob, I mean, that's just a strange name. And then, they quickly surmised that he was more than he
appeared to be.
Yeah, yes. Appeared to be.
But we were playing in Storm's King Thunder. Everything was more than it appeared to be.
It was a strange adventure because of the situation, the dragons.
And
giants.
It's not only your dragons and gods that I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of like when you play in a space game, how do you portray aliens? Like you don't have to do anything as a xenomorph. Xenomorphs don't have to talk, right? They just
Correct.
eat you.
Yes.
And scare you.
Well, alien, and the alien, yeah, they're very their motivation is very well known, and there's not much interaction like trying to convince them of not eating you or making you into a host. But other aliens,
I remember when Felipe played an alien just as a player in a Tecmo game.
Oh, okay.
The alien that's totally alien and not human.
Oh yeah, the Agoria, something like that.
Yeah, and he showed me a picture of it, and
it's like three-legged thing and
it
three-arm
looks
thing.
like a tripod thing walking around. Which
Yes.
which brings me to, what about not automatons, but
robots
or
artificial intelligence.
Yes.
Well, just because this not too long ago, they asked artificial intelligence to answer a few questions, and it wrote an article. You can look it up. I forget what it was, but AI writes an article, and they posted this article, and it talks about not being afraid of alien intelligence destroying humanity. So it was very weird and very unsettling at the same time. And though the AI promised that there was no reason for the AI to kill humanity or end humanity, it left the door open for that. It was weird. So I mean, that is a perfect. That was go read that, find that article. I'm sure you could Google it easily and read what that AI wrote.
Or if you have 3 hours to kill, you could watch Space Odyssey 2001.
Space Odyssey 2001. But you don't like that movie.
I hate that movie. But it explains to me why I don't trust artificial intelligence. Or, yeah. Is HAL artificial intelligence?
Yeah, kind of. I guess he was a computer. He was, I don't know about. Yeah, HAL was, I think, artificial intelligence for the time. That was a really interesting movie, and it was very. They try to make it.
It was horrible.
They
it was long and boring.
They try to make it realistic as far as much as they could.
If you really like that movie, I apologize, but
it is a well-loved
I've
movie,
sat through it like 3 times, and those are hours I can never get back. And my son loves the thing. Maybe only because I was like in serious pain while the last time he made me watch it.
When were you watching it?
It was pain from watching it.
Oh, that's terrible.
But when we talk about aliens,
yes,
or playing an alien, I like to think about Babylon 5.
Yeah.
I know that not everybody likes to think about Babylon 5, but it was one of my favorite shows.
We like that show quite a bit.
And also just the idea of, Star Wars, where they go into the canteen.
The cantina.
The cantina. And there's all those aliens.
Oh, yeah. Those look pretty cool.
Yeah. Those are ideas I get, but I've never really had to do that. Play aliens before.
Right. So what I do is I figure out what the motivation of the creature is, whatever it is.
So it's just part of your plot.
Right. And then from there, I just make them very strange. I try to make them aloof at times. Distracted is another one, because for me, they're in this. On one level, they're here talking to the PCs. On another level, they're like, well, should I eat them? Or should I just zap them out of existence because they bore me, right? Just like that little kid playing with the ants. So I think if ants could talk, many of them would probably suffer less from little kids.
Okay, so now I'm scared of his NPCs. I just got to tell you right now.
That's terrible.
I think it's an interesting idea. How are you going to portray these characters that you've created? But I think it basically comes down to, because you're human and we are playing with other humans, you're going to end up giving them human characteristics. It's like, and I'll go back to Star Trek, it's like Klingons versus humans. Klingons or Ferengi versus humans. They're different aspects of us, of humanity, right?
Right.
Even the gods, we give them Mars, or we give him, he's the god of war, right?
Right.
What's his other name? Hades.
No,
Hades is
in the world.
Yes. Who's the other god of war?
Oh, the Greek god and Roman god. I forget who Mars is the one I remember.
Okay. So there's all of those things.
You're right, and I think that's one way you could do it is look at it from a aspect or a slice of human personality or traits, right? Like you said, Ferengi are greedy, they're selfish, and something or other. Those are all aspects of humanity, where Klingons are about honor, about strength. I don't know how else you would describe a Klingon.
Warlike.
Yeah, fierce, territorial in a sense.
I don't know about
macho.
masculine.
No, because they like hitting each other. Like I still remember, for example, I hate to go back to Star Trek. Well, we're talking about Klingons, so there's Star Trek. So remember when Riker goes to the Klingon ship?
Yes, yes.
And at one point, basically the mission is over, right? He goes to the Klingon ship as the second in command, right? Mm-hmm. And so the captain leaves the ship, I believe, and another new captain or a new second person comes forward, and he's supposed to leave the bridge. And so, but being the Klingon culture, he doesn't like growl at the new guy or something. So the new guy punches him, right? Then he leaves. It was showing how Riker had learned about Klingon culture, that you just don't step down. You have to be pushed off your position or wherever you're going to be honorable, because you don't want to seen as being weak by giving up. So I thought it was a really interesting episode, and there's a lot of stuff like that you can glean from, especially Star Trek and the shows where they deal with aliens and interactions with different beings. And I think it's pretty good. Like I said, I usually make my dragons quirky. They're not, they're not always like, I'm gonna eat you. They're like, they look at the characters with curiosity, and because of that, they don't eat the characters right away,
or burn them up into little crisps.
No matter how hungry or upset they are that you woke them up. I think for me, the key to playing something that is so alien is to be very strange in the way they talk. So when the dragon that you guys encountered in Shadowrun, he was portraying himself as a businessman. But his
idea of a businessman.
Yes, his idea of a business, exactly.
Which he had no idea of what a businessman was.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I was trying to portray, because he was a businessman, he was portraying himself as a businessman, and the players knew after a little interaction of him during the dinner that he wasn't businesslike at all, and he was very strange, and he acted very strangely, and before he would answer, he would talk to himself about the answer that he was going to give in front of the characters, and they're like, what is wrong with this guy? And then they were doing
actually, we weren't like, what is wrong with this guy? We were trying to figure out what this guy is and what he wants.
Right, exactly. And then I don't know how long it took for you guys to figure out. Well, I have not divulged whether he's a dragon or not, but
yes, he has.
He has divulged him that he was a dragon? No.
Yeah.
Oh, did he? I don't remember.
I don't know if he did, but we figured it out. Oh, yeah,
you guys figured out something strange about him, because he exuded like a lot of magic, or a lot of whatever you call it. I don't know.
Charisma?
Yeah, there's that, but there's anyway, so that's what I did. I made him quirky. I made him like not really care about stuff that would be important to a business person, a businessman. He was playing a man, and so they would ask him questions, and he would like take time to answer, and then he would say things like, "Oh yeah, that's the right answer." Like if you're trying to convince somebody that you're such and such, you don't come up with this idea that that's the right answer I should give you, and you're not going to vocalize it. And he was vocalizing all that. He was making himself very, and then he would talk to himself a little bit, and so they knew he wasn't right, but it wasn't that he was mental, or he was had some what is it, mental disorder, that he had multiple personalities or something. He was just trying to figure out what was going on with the characters and what they thought, because I'll tell you a little secret, because he had recently awoken, right? And so he didn't really know what was going on in the world other than what he was exposed to, that he had kind of realized, the short time that he had been awake. And in that short time, he was able to amass quite a bit of money, and it was but he was working secretly because there was other dragons who had been awoken earlier and had a little upper hand. So he's trying to deal with the situation of not raising an alarm to other dragons, because they probably want to kill him.
Okay, you can stop talking, because other people listen to this podcast that are playing in that game.
Well, I mean, I don't think I divulged too much about the situation, but anyway, so that's the situation, and that's why I play him quirky. I play, almost every alien, or I play him strangely, right? And that's a good way of doing it. It keeps the characters, the players, wondering what's going on. It keeps them wondering what the motivations of this creature is, and I think as long as you got that going on with your players, that is a good way to run the game, and that's a good way to portray something, an entity that is beyond understanding to human people.
And it's also a good way if you don't do voices and stuff, like, how people are always saying that you should make your NPCs memorable and
Right.
give them have each one of them talk a different way and that kind of thing. So
Right.
if you don't really do that by playing it as quirky, it gives it that kind of flavor, right?
That's true. It makes them distinct. Yeah. Well, and make sure you don't want to play them like
Totally wacky.
Yeah. Though you can, because they are creatures that are kind of beyond understanding. Because if they're immortal, they don't realize, they don't think about they don't think in the timeline that humans do. If they are powerful, the same thing. They don't look at things as being unable to do. They just like they don't understand why humans do certain things, right?
Or they do understand and don't care.
Oh, exactly. That's perfect.
So when you are creating your games, whether it be a D&D game or even a modern game, if you're going to bring gods or aliens into it, or a futuristic game, a sci-fi game.
Well, yeah, an AI, like you said.
An AI, or just people from other planets that aren't human.
Correct.
Aliens. And I don't know that you can actually roleplay a xenomorph, but,
An alien from Alien.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
You don't really have to. You can just say the one's there and everyone's scared to death anyway. So, trying to get away from it. Right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so role playing the alien from Alien is probably not what we're talking about, but maybe
But role playing the AI from Alien is what he's talking about.
Right. So those things, I think you could look at what the creature wants and what they want from the players and go from there, and then come from at an angle that the players don't expect, or an angle or a strange method that they're thinking about. Think of a weird way of trying to get what you want out of the players and not be the straightforward transaction, or ask for something that's strange. It won't be like a straightforward transaction between the PCs and the creature that you're playing, that you're role playing. Yeah, I think Jolene is probably gave us the best information or best sources. Star Trek or any show that has a lot of alien interactions with the main characters of the show.
Not only Star Trek, Star Wars. If you're talking about sci-fi shows, there's Babylon 5.
Babylon 5, yeah, that's true.
There's also books. People have read lots of books, and there's lots of movies, and all kinds of books are usually where most of us start with. I always think of it as an aspect of a different aspect of humanity, right?
Right.
Whatever it is. Because I'm not sure I can figure out how to play something without an aspect of humanity in it, because we're human, right? So
we can only understand
we can only do what we know.
Yeah.
So think about it, figure out how you want to do it, and
have
maybe
fun.
It'll add some interesting ideas to your adventure.
Right. I think anytime I've done that and I've done it well, for me, doing it well is the players really being intrigued about what this thing is, or this
and having fun,
and having fun, of course. And then the big thing is when they figure it out, right? They're really happy that they figured something out. I think that's the best way to role play a creature, is being able to role play them in the sense that the players are able sooner or later to figure out what is going on. And I think then you have a real fun NPC and fun game to run in and play in.
So there you go. This is Gaming Perspectives with
Saul
and Jolene.
You have a good day.